watch it at least once a year, and I've been watching it every year since like 2008.
I'm gonna do the official intro real quick. So welcome to Cinema Convos. This is the show where we bring guests with different tastes in film. I'm your host, Yash. I'm here with my producer, Zach, and our special guest, Paul. And today we're discussing the film Forgetting Sarah Marshall from 2008. And is directed by Nicholas Stoller and written by Jason Segel. And it stars Jason Segel, Kristen Bell, Mila Kunis, and Russell Brand. And before we get started today, just wanted to issue a quick spoiler warning because we will be getting into the plot of the film. So we recommend watching the movie before listening to this episode. So just to start off with some preliminary questions, I wanted to ask you guys, what's your first memory or best memory with this movie?
Yeah, sure. I don't know. This was one of the movies that came out like right after the wave of like 40-Year-Old Virgin and Knocked Up and Superbad, and we were on this hot streak. And I don't know, it was crazy because I think this is the movie that like I love those movies a lot, and I was like very into it. I didn't obviously like I don't know, I was like 12, 13 when these movies came out, so I didn't understand a lot of the more poignant things or a lot of why so many jokes were funny. But like I really there was something about these movies that I really obsessed over and really loved. And Forgetting Sarah Marshall was the one that I just like kept coming back to. It has like this like really warm feeling. I know it's like a cliche to say, but like, you know, he goes on vacation, but that movie always felt like going on vacation for me. You know, it was always like very, and the thing that like separates it from the other ones as well to me is the fact that like the other ones are hilarious, and they also have important like insights into like things like Superbad is a movie about friendship, and it's a really good movie about friendship. But I think that like Forgetting Sarah Marshall is the quintessential breakup movie, and it's so like odd to me because everything that was foretold in Forgetting Sarah Marshall were things that I would later go through, and every time I would go through these experiences, I would go back to that movie and be like, fuck, like this is it. This is the, you know, this is exactly as depicted, I would say. And it's weird because I think that like heartbreak or like, you know, whether it's from a relationship or whatever is like a very universal feeling, and that like, you know, everybody at some point goes through, whether it's sooner or later. And I think that like no movie captures it like this movie. And I also think that like it's strange because I don't know if there's that many good breakup movies, you know, but this is, for me, this is for sure the one.
So yeah, for me, just kind of bouncing off of what you said, for quintessential breakup movies, I guess one of my favorite films is 500 Days of Summer. It's not really a raunchy comedy, but
Of course.
it's a very like, it's also a movie that feels very real to me. Yeah, so like you said, like how this movie kind of, you experience a lot of the similar things in this movie throughout your life. And I think that's true for a lot of people because my most memorable experience with this movie is actually, it's like a two-part answer. I would say that when I first watched this movie, it's because one of my friends bought me like 6 different R-rated comedies for my birthday when I turned 17, and this is one of them. So that's when I was just watching a ton of like movies that I had not seen. But my most memorable time watching this movie was I was watching it with one of my friends. He had recently gone through a breakup, and he was watching this movie, and he's like, yep, that's exactly how that feels like, and that's how that's like. And then there's one scene in particular where Bill Hader's character is like, hey, you know, we didn't really like Sarah for these reasons. And he's like, that definitely happens as soon as you break up with someone.
He was kind of a bitch. He was a little bit of a...
Liz and I, we think the world of Sarah. We think she's great. Okay? But, I mean, I'm just being honest here. Every time she would come over to our house, she always acted, you know, like a little bitch.
So yeah, it's just that was kind of my memorable experience with this movie. Is there anything you wanted to mention, Zach?
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those movies that I've watched for the first time in middle school. That was around the time that I discovered a lot of other raunchy comedies as well. One of the reasons that I've seen this movie so much is that it showed up on cable a lot. Most of the time, I wouldn't even watch it all in one sitting, but I probably ended up watching the whole movie for the first time over the course of like a few years. But like, even if you watch it in chunks, and even if it's censored, it's still really enjoyable. You know, it's raunchy, but it's not one of those movies where it being raunchy is most of the fun. It's still a great movie without all that stuff. But yeah, that's how I saw it for the first time.
I think one thing that a lot of people don't really realize, like, a lot of people see raunchy comedy and they think, oh, this movie is just really gross and like profane. But a lot of these movies, particularly like this movie and anything that like Judd Apatow has made, it's like there's always like a good story and characters behind the wheel.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's why you can watch this movie completely censored, because like it's still a good story. It's like where there's other movies that they're still funny, but they're more reliant on the raunchy stuff.
Can we get into something really quickly?
Sure.
Can I have the floor for like 5 minutes?
Yeah, for sure, dude.
Because I was thinking about this the other day because I watched 40-Year-Old Virgin last week or 2 weeks ago, and I watched Knocked Up like also 2 weeks ago, and then I watched Superbad last week. And I don't know, it just happened to come that way. It wasn't even like I was planning some sort of a thematic trilogy sort of. What happened was when I love Knocked Up a lot, and there's something I very much love about like the aesthetics of Knocked Up, and I love like the soundtrack by Ludwig Wainwright, and like it's like very light. That movie's really really bright, like it's a lot of natural light and shit like that. And I don't know, it adds a really like it's kind of like got like the glow of a pregnant woman. I can't explain it. I know that sounds completely absurd, but like I'm being totally serious. Yeah. But what I didn't realize this time, before, which I realized this time, is like that movie is hilarious, and it's a lot about like how men hang out in cliques and how women hang out in cliques. But there is no reason for Seth Rogen and Katherine Heigl to be together in that movie the entire time. There's no reason at all. It's crazy. There's nothing that the only thing they have in common is the fact that they're creating a child together. And I was thinking, like, what is, like he holds her hand at one point when they're walking through like the park, but like she doesn't like anything about him. I don't know what the fuck she likes about him by the end of the movie. I don't know why and I don't know why he likes her. I have no idea what it is about her that he, that likes, it's crazy to me. There's no reason for them to end up together. And I was always so distracted by the flash of the movie because the movie is so fucking funny, like on so many levels. Like the movie's like the mushrooms scene in Vegas where they're like putting all the chairs, and there's like, this hotel room has 8 different chairs. Like it's like I gotta sit in a different chair. This is a terrible energy. Fucking hilarious. Like this movie is truly one of the funniest movies ever made, but like the core is rotten. There's no chemistry between Heigl and Rogen at all, and etc. and shit like that. And this is the thing with Forgetting Sarah Marshall, is that like I buy all of the relationships on screen. I buy Jason Segel as like this warm, cuddly teddy bear who like this like tiny little superstar like cuddled up to and really loved because she felt protected by him and whatever. And I totally buy the relationship between Mila Kunis and Jason Segel because they're both like these kind of like at this point drifters who like got heartbroken and are just like fuck the world, whatever. She ran out to Hawaii. She's got just as many problems as he does, and that's what I love about her as well, is that like Mila Kunis is totally damaged in this movie, and not like she doesn't need a savior, which I think is awesome, because I think that's such a trope that like you have like these damaged women who are like, if only I had the right man to save me out of the situation, and blah 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 blah. And it's not the case here at all. She's on her shit. She's telling him, like, you need to get your shit together, a bit of a hypocritical stance from her point, but it doesn't really matter. Yeah, I believe all the relationships in the movie. I love how like when he goes on like his sex spree after they go to the club for the first time, like you feel how just like empty and hollow it is, and it's just completely fucking like he does not care about these women at all. Like they don't care. It's just like the most like, and it feels so cold and wrong. And like as soon as there's real relationships in play, the people are really talking with each other and stuff. And like, and that's the thing is like, actually I didn't even realize this until I just said it, but like the amount of different types of like you have like the one night stand relationship is showed really well. You have like the breakup relationship showed really well. The new flame, and then you have, which I love about this movie, you have that like Mormon couple that's like on vacation. And they are so uncomfortable with each other, and it's just like, and you've seen that relationship before. Like I know that relationship, like I've walked past that relationship in the mall before, kind of thing. It's insane to me because this movie is a breakup comedy, and it's such a fucking like incredible 360 view on like all these different types of relationships you can have, and like Sarah and her new boyfriend, like it's with Aldous. We'll get to Aldous in a second because I got a lot to say about him. He's amazing. But with Sarah and Aldous, like it's super hot, it's super fiery, and like they're these two flames, that are like going at each other. And in the end, you realize like how completely vapid and empty their relationship is, because he's like, yeah, I fucked the housekeeper, and she's like, I hate your music, and you realize that it's completely like the steam that they're firing that rocket ship on is completely, it's nothing, it's complete. It's just fueled by celebrity and fame and looking good, but they don't, they don't give a shit about each other. They're using each other to, achieve what they think their image of themselves should be.
Yeah, I mean, you covered a lot of interesting points. I mean, this movie does it, as you said, it shows different types of couples and relationships. And as a young adult, you definitely see these relationships everywhere. All kinds of people looking for different things, which makes things kind of messy, I guess. But yeah.
Sure.
For sure. Yeah, this movie definitely, I see how you can compare it to Knocked Up, in that in Knocked Up, like, yeah, the characters have nothing in common at all, which is part of why it's so funny. But in this movie,
for sure, that's true.
It's like there's actually, like, you feel Jason Segel's pain, and you also understand where he's coming from throughout the movie, I think. Like, all the mistakes he makes seem pretty reasonable in the mindset he's in.
It's complete. Well, this is the thing, is that like they turn him into the biggest like pussy asshole of all time. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I need to stop. Like, but no, it's true. Like he's the biggest feeling sorry for himself loser on the face of the earth, and he's so cringy. He's so embarrassing. And I have for sure been Jason Segel in this movie at least 3 points in my life. And the
everyone
thing is,
has
like,
at some point.
Yeah, exactly. And what I was also gonna say is what I think is so cool. I mean, Segel wrote the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm furious that Segel hasn't written more movies because it's so good and he does such a good job of it. But
he's talented. I think he
Yeah,
has
for sure. He's
writing.
insane. Have you seen End of Tour?
Yes, I have. That was very
I
good.
just watched End of Tour like 2 weeks ago. It's so good. It was
Yeah.
really messed up after I saw the movie. I was,
Yeah, that was a good one.
The core of the movie is when you have a breakup, and I think the thing that like is so universally felt is that you cannot escape the memory of this person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like it doesn't matter where you go, you could be on the sandiest beaches in the world, you will still in your head be like, I am so miserable right now, I miss her so much, like I wish that she was here right now, and you can't get her out of your head, you can't get rid of her. And this movie just turned that metaphor of like you can't get rid of your ex no matter where you go into a physical situation
Right.
where she's now there on his vacation ruining for him. Instead of living in his head, she's literally living like right there physically. And like that idea to me is brilliant. Not only is she there, she's there with her new guy who's like the most famous guy on earth,
Mm-hmm.
etc. All this shit. Like, I don't know, man. I think that's such I think the best thing you can do in cinema is when you take it's like Zootopia, right?
Right.
It's like you're living in an animal world, but like it's the most humanly critical
Mm-hmm.
like film about race and minorities, whatever, in the last like 5 years. I think like Zootopia is
Yeah.
brilliant.
Really good movie.
But the thing that film does so well is that film always allows us to take the reality and it like elevates into this like level of absurdity to reflect ourselves. You know, it's like an absurd documentary. And that's why I feel like Forgetting Sarah Marshall just like takes like, okay, like what if this thing that you always feel, what if that was like the reality? Like how would that play? And it plays for laughs and it also plays for like genuine insight. You know.
Yeah. So going off of what you guys were saying earlier about relationships in the film, odds are that you've all seen these types of relationships at some point in your life, whether you've been in one of them or not. And also, comparing this movie to The 40-Year-Old Virgin and Knocked Up, it seems like the relationships in this movie aren't played up for laughs as they are in the other ones. I love The 40-Year-Old Virgin, but there are some aspects in that movie that just kind of seem unrealistic to me. Kind of sort of like what you were saying about Knocked Up. The chemistry doesn't really hold up well after the charm of the movie clears off. And it's important to compare this movie to Judd Apatow's movies. While he didn't direct this movie, it certainly wouldn't exist without his inspiration. And that is true for most raunchy comedies and rom-coms of the past 15 years.
It feels very Judd Apatow-esque, even though it's not his movie. It has a lot of similar. That's why we're comparing it to movies like Knocked Up and 40-Year-Old Virgin, because it's just so similar in a lot of ways, like tonally, and like a lot of the jokes are as funny. So I guess that's the one way.
Yeah. Another thing that's like so interesting to me is we've experienced an insane social change in the last 5 years regarding the women and the discussion about race and etc. And I think it's so fascinating to me because like if you watch like 40-Year-Old Virgin, there's a lot of jokes in there that you could never do anymore, right? There's a lot of shit that's like aged really poorly, and even though super bad, there's a lot of stuff we were just like, I know this is how teenagers actually talk.
Like a lot of that stuff you just couldn't.
But what I think about Forgetting Sarah Marshall is so awesome is that it's so timeless. It's so insanely timeless. Like I'm gonna show this to my kids in 50 years. You know, like I feel like that's a really weird like time. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't matter. I'll be
50
like
years, like, oh my,
like they'll be way older.
40-year-old will be like, I finally get to watch this movie.
I'm like, all right, it's time you can watch the movie, son. I see you're 40 now. I see you. This is something I really love about this movie. Okay, so the entire movie is basically how do you get over a breakup?
Mm-hmm.
And he fails at every end. And he goes through a lot of ends. Like he sleeps with a lot of women.
Mm-hmm.
He tries to delete all the photos. He goes into a depression. And like you also like get to see the stages of grief, which I really love because it doesn't hold any punches. It like shows you exactly like how pathetic everybody is after a breakup. He goes on vacation. That doesn't work. He hooks up with a new girl who he's actually like into, but he still fucking hates himself. He tries sleeping with his ex-girlfriend. That doesn't work. Also, can we get a shout out for the line where after him and Sarah like fail at hooking up and he walks out and there's like a wedding in the background? He's like, "Oh, wedding in Hawaii, real original."
I love that.
I'm obsessed with that fucking line. And then he kicks up the t-shirt and he like grabs it out of the air. Like there's so many like little things that are like it was like a one take. They're like, that was brilliant. We're keeping that in. We can't delete that shit. Yeah. No, but he tries everything. And what happens is he gets home and he finally gets his shit together and he starts working on the musical, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the whole thing really switches, is that he goes in for his own passion and he decides to do the thing that, really makes him happy, which isn't whether it's, sex, drinking, whatever, like this, he's doing the human instinct, which is to like live through all the vices because it's like instant gratification. And when you're depressed, all you want is instant gratification because all you want is for the pain to stop. So you'll take whatever you can get, like, immediately. And when you follow your passion, when you want to make a musical, you're gonna first of all, you're doubting yourself because you're like, nobody loves me. I'm a piece of shit. Like I can't make anything that's good, you know? And I think it's only because he has the journey in Hawaii, obviously, that he can find himself again and be like, oh shit, I'm kind of a cool guy. Like even this girl Mila Kunis was into me and da-da-da-da. But the thing is, and this is all part of a bigger point. I'm so sorry. The thing is that like his life before the breakup is completely tied to Sarah. So his job is that he's a musician, yes. But even if being a musician is his passion, and music is his passion, even that is tied to her because he makes the music for her show. He's seen in the media as Sarah's boyfriend. Like that's his entire identity, is that he's Sarah's boyfriend. He has nothing that is his. He has nothing that he is. You know, everything around the house is like his mug has like a picture of him and Sarah on it. And also it's so cool. There's like whenever something happens that like triggers a memory, he'll have like flashbacks. There's a scene where like Aldous doesn't want to wear the shirt that Sarah bought him. Yeah. And then Jason has like Peter has like a flashback to every time Sarah bought him a piece of clothing that was like really ugly. But he was really into it. And this is another thing, like whenever you break up with somebody, as soon as somebody says something that reminds you of them, you have like this flashback montage of all these things that remind you of like that thing. But what I was going to say is that Peter isn't happy until he lets himself be the driver of his own life. Like his identity is his entire identity at the start of the movie is he's Sarah's boyfriend. And then in the first 5 minutes, that's destroyed. And so you have a man who is nothing. And then he has to essentially become his own person, which is the whole journey of the movie. Because like, you know, in every romantic comedy, it's like, oh, I've fallen in love with somebody new. And like, so this person is the answer to all my problems. Like, no, you're the answer to your own problems. Like, that's what the movie is trying to say, basically, is like, only you can fix yourself by doing something that you want to do, not that you're you know. Okay, so I guess, I mean, I know you guys mentioned a lot of different things, but we could talk about like some of our favorite aspects of the movie, whether that's like, for sure, you guys mentioned characters like Aldous Snow. We can get into like, I think Russell Brand is super funny in this movie, and his character's so over the top. And it's funny because there was also that spin-off movie, right? Get Him to the Greek, and it's just like,
I love that movie.
So ridiculous. I think I might smoke on, bro.
I've only seen that movie once, so it's been, and I like this movie a lot more than that one.
Get Him to the Greek, I feel like I've seen a lot more. I don't know.
Really?
I mean, I like Sarah Marshall more. I don't know. Okay, so sort of fun fact about Get Him to the Greek. That was the first R-rated movie I ever saw in the theaters.
Oh,
I was in 8th grade.
I saw it with my dad, and at the end of it, we looked at each other and each agreed that it was a bad idea.
Because I was 13. Like, there's a lot of shit that I wasn't ready to see.
like they smoke a joint with a bunch of crack in it. Yeah, definitely not for the faint of heart.
Why the fuck is it called a Jeffrey? Because who could be scared of a Jeffrey? Yeah, Jeffrey's just this nice bloke from down the road, isn't he? What's wrong with you? Hello, I'm Jeffrey. I've just moved in.
I love that. Rub the furry walls. I love that.
So, but that means you saw Get Him to the Greek before you stopped forgetting Sarah Marshall.
I did. I saw Get Him to the Greek first. I was very confused. But
yeah, of course.
But I saw Get Him to the Greek first, and then it was more context. But what's funny about Get Him to the Greek, it really is, it's a spinoff, but it really is a standalone film. You really don't need to see Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Well, it is standalone because Jonah Hill plays 2 different parts in both movies.
I didn't even realize
that is really strange. That is really strange.
The first R-rated, by the way, because we keep talking about this, the first R-rated movie I ever saw was when I was 11, and my brother showed me The Departed, and I think it's like 100% responsible for why I'm so fucked up as an adult, is because I saw Leonardo DiCaprio's like brains get blown out when I was like in 6th grade. Yeah, but you know, you have your experiences.
That's fair.
Aldous Snow, I love. Dude rocks the whole fucking movie, where he gets the wine spilled on his shirt and he's like, oh no, like take my eyes, but not the shirt. Like that whole segment is brilliant. Or we're like, you as an audience member, you love Aldous Snow. Like you can't hate him. And like even Peter says it on the water. He's like, fuck man, you're cool. Like, and I've had so many moments where like, even I like have met like, you know, the new boyfriend of my ex-girlfriend. I'm just like, this guy is really fucking cool. I would hang out with this guy in the real world for sure. Like he's I'm supposed to hate him, but I kind of like him a lot. And I think that like Aldous perfectly, like you totally get why your like ex-girl likes this new guy. You're just like, you hate him even more for that. You're just like, ah, shit. This is terrible. He's a cool guy. But I will say, I think a more even deserved shout out is to be given to Paul Rudd in this movie.
Of course. Of course.
Paul Rudd owns this fucking movie, and he's in like a total of 3 minutes of it. He's nuts. Every single line that comes out of his mouth is amazing.
Pop up now. Stop. Get down. Get down there. Remember, don't do anything. Nothing. Pop up. Well, you got to do more than that, because you're just laying right out. Looks like you're boogie boarding. Just do it. Feel it. Pop up. Yeah, that wasn't quite it, but we're going to figure it out there. Let's go surfing. Come on. Everybody's learning how. Come on. The weather outside is weather.
Yeah. He's funny. He's like, what does he say? Like my Hawaiian name is like Kunu or something.
Yopi. Pew Yopi. Well, the best is where they go out into the water and he's like, the weather outside is weather. And every time anybody sings like a Christmas carol, that's all I can fucking hear in my head.
Yeah, I think of that too.
Or where he has the coral in his leg and he's like bleeding out and he's like, you sound like you're from London. He's like, yeah, I'm losing quite a bit of blood.
It's like a serious injury and he just like, that's all he notices. It's so funny. Paul Rudd in general is just a national treasure. He's so funny.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. How can you not like that guy? I want to meet someone like who just says, hey, I hate Paul Rudd. I don't think anyone could say that.
That would be defamatory. That seems completely unreasonable, to be honest with you.
That's unrealistic.
Like, you can have a lot of opinions on a lot of things, but it's just unnecessary to hate Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
Because he's given us so much for 1,000 years already.
Talking about side characters, one of my favorites in this movie is the guy in the repressed couple played by Jack McBrayer.
Yes. Oh my God, he's so good.
He plays the Mormon. No, and he's underrated too. He plays an innocent character so well.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's funny you mentioned that. Whenever I hear his voice, I just see his character in Wreck-It Ralph like immediately. I don't know what it is.
Oh shit! I came to Wreck-It Ralph a lot later than I came to Jack McBrayer. So I have a backwards association pretty much. All I can see is him in fucking Brigadier Sarah Marshall.
The wife wants me to do certain things that I find inappropriate. Let me just say that if God was a city planner, he would not put a playground next to a sewage system.
Yash, can you keep a tally real quick?
Of what?
I'm going to list things, but I want you to keep a tally on how many things it is.
I have a notebook here. Like, I have.
All right, perfect. Right, this is a stupid game, but I was thinking about this the other day, and I'm really curious about what we can get up to. Because I feel like we could get up to a higher number on this than we could get on, like, The Godfather, basically. And the thing is, like, this movie is about a breakup, and it's about the story of Peter's breakup. But there are, like, 8 different side stories going on in this movie simultaneously. So you have the Mormon couple. That's, like, a whole other thing, right?
Yeah.
You have the running gag of, like, Aldis's insanely perverse love songs, which are so catchy and so good. Like that's an entire fleshed out thing. You have the Dracula musical,
of course.
You have the beef that Mila Kunis has with her ex-boyfriend who still lives on the island. Also, everybody happens to know, like, the barkeeper is super tight with speaking of, you have that barkeeper who loves swimming with turtles and shit.
I love him.
Have you guys seen the extended edition with the yoga instructor where Kristen Wiig like plays the yoga instructor?
I actually just watched the unrated version most recently.
Dude,
I think I have seen that.
Why is that yoga scene not? The yoga scene should be in the fucking full movie. It's so good.
Is it not? I haven't watched theatrical in a while, so.
No, I remember that one. I think I watched that scene. I think they had the unrated version. When I watched it most recently, they had the unrated version. I watched it on an airplane, and I think they had that scene in it.
Really?
Because I think that's the version that they released overseas, I think. So, like.
You have the side bit of the shitty crime shows that are making fun of network shows. You have you have Bill Hader and his wife Liz who can't figure out how to use. He's like, I'm on the moon, bitch.
Basically, that reminds me of so much of just like the whole world we live in now.
So many
Everyone
things.
changes their background on Zoom. And
you
stuff.
have exactly. It's so good. And then you have there was something else. You have Jonah Hill as like the obsessively creepy fucking. So you want a magazine? It's gonna be really lonely. It's like I saw this spill from over there. Like he comes in to like fucking dry him off when he's got the shit spilled on him.
Yeah.
You've got the whole Paul Rudd thing is brilliant. The fact that he doesn't remember who Peter is every single time, even when they're at the bar. Like, dude, we had a nice talk out on the water like yesterday. It's like, oh, cool, nice to meet you. I'm trying to think. There's got to be something else that I'm
trying to think too.
What are we up to?
Also,
Nine.
I don't know if this counts, but also how like
it's a lot.
For Kristen Bell, like the show is getting canceled. That's kind of like a thing with her.
Yeah, that's like a huge thing.
10.
Because it affects both of them as well, right?
Yes.
And you have the flashback seminars of like the seminars. You have the flashback montages whenever he remembers something about Sarah, like where he's like on the press tour with her, and they're always like taking pictures of her, and he's always like being told to get out of the picture. He's like always like holding her purse and shit, like all that stuff. That's at least 10, right? There's 10 fleshed out. That's why this movie feels so real, because it feels like you're in a real world. Like I was thinking about this. This is the one thing that like hit me the most. This was back when I used to watch this when I was younger. When Bill Hader's, and you already alluded to this earlier, when Bill Hader's in the kitchen with him the first time, and he's like, dating Sarah is nothing like dating Liz. And he's like, do you want to talk about this right now? He's like, yeah. And he's like, she's the mother of my unborn child. And like, that's it. That's all we ever know about Liz, is that she's the mother of his unborn child. And then at the end, you see a scene in the montage where Peter's making the music of like him sitting with Liz, a newborn baby, and Bill Hader. It's so irrelevant. It doesn't even matter. Like it doesn't, like there's no need for that line in the movie. But you already know who Liz is, who Bill Hader's character is, O'Brien, and the baby in one fucking line. If you guys, I haven't watched Tenet yet, so I can't speak on it, but like, there's this thing I really hate about Nolan movies, and I don't know if Nolan slander is allowed on this podcast. I'll give a shit. I'm going for it anyway.
I had some criticisms of Tenet as well, so
I'm calling the police. I'm just kidding.
All right, I'll be out in 30 minutes. I'll get here in time. I think that like Nolan, for all of his like he's an envelope pusher in cinema, yes, but his exposition is fucking garbage. And if I have to sit through one more expository scene of like Michael Caine or some fucking Leonardo DiCaprio explaining the movie to you in the first 30 minutes, and he's like, well, these are the rules that we've set up in this movie. It's like, stop telling me everything. Why is Anne Hathaway giving me a monologue about the fact that like love is a universal feeling? Shut the fuck up. Like, let me like learn this by myself, you know? And this is what Forgetting Sarah Marshall does so well. It doesn't like ever like, by the way, this is Bill Hader character's Brian, and he is engaged to a woman called Liz, and they have a child that is like on the way. And it's not like played for drama or anything. It's just happening in the background, but it's consistent and it's there, and it's something that you blink and you miss it. But these are the little things, and the devil's in the details. The movie is so fucking detailed, and it's a rom-com. It has no, like, The Godfather is this detailed, you know. And I'll do 3 hours on The Godfather as well. I don't give a shit. But like, this movie is insane, man. This movie has no right to be as good as it is. I don't know. It does everything right for me, which is why I keep coming back to it, and why I feel so strong about it, because like it doesn't have to be as good as it is. It could have been so lackluster. It could have been the simplest movie, and they didn't pull any punches. There's another bit that I love is where they're standing at the beach, and where he's like, yeah, I broke up with Sarah Marshall, and he's like, yeah, I heard about it, everybody heard about it. It's like The Sopranos. Get over it, man. You can find a new show. I think about that shit all the time whenever I tell somebody to get over something. And then they go kill the pig.
Yeah.
And then they're carrying the pig, and you just see the silhouettes. And he's like, man, you gotta stop crying. It's over already. He's like, I'm not crying. You're crying. It's like, I'm not the baby. He's like, you look like a gigantic baby. I'm sorry I said that.
Yeah.
The whole scene is fucking. Me and Sid were talking before this podcast, because we were talking about the movie as well, and that's his favorite scene. So shout out Sid. Is the I'm not crying, you're crying. That's a fucking brilliant, completely unnecessary scene. It has nothing to do in the movie, but like, it adds flavor to the meal of that film.
You could probably ad-lib, like, I imagine. Like,
that shit is way too funny. Do you guys have I was gonna ask this because Yash, you were talking about when we texted earlier, all the subtle jokes you don't get the first time around.
Yeah.
And I would like to throw my champion in the ring, and that's when they're talking to the Mormon guy at the bar after his first date with Rachel, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna go try and sleep with my wife, and then he leaves, and in the background he goes, off to find the mythical clitoris. I fucking pissed myself the first time I heard that properly. It's so hilarious. Do you have like a moment that like is like subtle, but that, you know?
I don't even remember that part.
Dude, and that's what I'm saying. That's why you can keep coming back to this movie, because there's always shit that you're gonna find that's hilarious.
Oh, let me think. I just watched it, so there has to be something. Oh man, this movie is just like it's consistently like it's just so funny, and like the jokes come in at a very fast pace, so it's like it's hard to almost process sometimes. One part that because I've only seen the unrated version, I think like once, maybe like one more time, and like then the yoga scene where Kristen Wiig is just like, if you can't do this move, don't try it, and Jason Segel just keeps doing it.
Child's pose.
It just cracks me up. Yeah, but I love her too. She's so funny.
I love where she says to him. Sorry, go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, no. So I guess the only other scene we're talking about subtle scenes that I don't know.
Anyway, it's his scene.
Kent sent me. The court of Fanning and her people, they need this room.
So does that mean I have to leave the hotel?
Ken found you a room.
I'll take it. Yeah, I want to hang out with Rachel a little more.
Are those sad tissues or happy tissues?
That's an excellent line, and I also love where he's like he's hanging out in the fucking most gorgeous penthouse suite of all time. You have the most beautiful sunset that is imaginable in the background, and he's in a fetal position on the floor crying. He's like, ah! Like he's like bawling his eyes out, and he gets a phone call from the front desk. He's like, yeah, there was complaints of like an old lady crying, and he's like, yeah, she sounds really upset. I think she's having a really hard time. It's like, Peter, are you okay? He's like, I'll try to keep it down.
Yeah, the best part about that scene for me is just how he's like, she must be like on the floor above me, and she's like, you're on the top floor.
Yeah, I think I hear her too. He's like, you're on the top floor. Yeah, exactly.
It's like, what?
Best line.
Yeah, I think one part of what makes a good comedy is if like the jokes are good and the movie is well written. And as we've said, like Jason Segel definitely deserves more opportunities to write, because I'm looking at his filmography right now and he's only written 3 other like feature film screenplays.
Yeah, so. And if they've only been like assisting roles, right? I don't think it's been fully him, because I'm sure he got a credit for Getting to the Greek, right? Because it's like his character.
He got the character credit for that.
Credit.
Yeah, but he didn't write a screenplay.
Yeah, exactly.
He was a co-writer for the other.
Did he write the Muppets?
He did write the
Muppets. That's right. Yeah, I think he did write the Muppets, right?
What I see here is the Muppets, the 5-Year Engagement, and Sex Tape, which I've heard is not very good.
He wrote 5-Year Engagement?
Yeah, it looks.
I have not seen 5-Year Engagement.
One of the writers.
I haven't either, but it keeps popping up, man. I think I might just watch it.
It's co-written and directed by Nicholas Stoller, who did this film. So.
Can I throw a recommendation into the conversation?
Sure, of course.
Because you're talking about like not that well-known raunchy comedies. There is a movie, and stop me if you've heard this, called The Night Before.
I've seen it. I just saw it.
Is that the one with Seth Rogen?
So fucking good.
Wait.
Yeah, it's with Seth Rogen and Anthony Mackie and Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the Christmas one, that one.
Yeah,
that movie's so fucking good, dude.
Yeah.
Like, and
I just saw that one.
Like nobody talks about that movie ever. Like nobody knows what that movie is, and it's in the league, man. It could easily play with like the best of their shit. The scene where he's in church and he's tripping on fucking mushrooms, and the baby looks at him, he's like, I fucking hate you. And like he stands up and he sees like Jesus on the cross crucified. He's like, oh, we did that. And he looks at his sweater, he's like, oh. Throws up in the church.
I like that movie too, but one thing about comedy movies in general, and this is The Night Before is just one example, but they put a lot of that scene in the trailer, and I didn't like that. Like they need to stop putting
it's true.
in the trailer.
It's true. Yeah. That's a whole other discussion about
discussion, but I feel like it applies to comedy films. That was a good movie. I saw that one not too long ago. Just
I wish more people would know that movie. That movie is actually I'm a big fan of that movie. I've seen it more times than I could actually count, which is weird because I don't think that's a very big film. I have one more big talking point that I would like to get to, if I may.
Yeah, of course.
It's the scene where Peter hooks up with Sarah, and afterwards he goes and tells Mila Kunis what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting goosebumps just like talking about it. It's insane. And she tells him, she's like, Peter, I need you to leave. And then he goes. Oh, another bit for your tally is the titty pictures in that one bar.
Oh yeah. It's 12.
Yeah. See, there we go. And he goes to the bar and he picks up the picture and he gets his ass beat and he comes back and he's destroyed in the face. And he doesn't say anything, he just puts the picture on and he leaves. I saw that movie for the first time, like I said, when I was like 12 or 13, and I repeatedly watched it all the time. And I used to, whenever I rewatch, I skipped from like the hooking up with Sarah scene to like after he gives her the picture. Like I don't know what it was, man, but I could not watch the scene where she tells him to leave. Like that was
I hate that scene too.
Yeah,
but it's so good. It's so good. Like watching it now as an adult, I'm like,
Okay, Peter, you can leave now.
At the most, maximum.
Thank you for staying until late.
Rachel, please don't do this. The only reason I'm telling you this is because I really care about...
Listen to me, Peter. I was a mess too, I understand, okay? But it does not excuse you acting like a complete asshole.
Listen, I know that I fucked things up for a minute, but I'm not like every other asshole.
You should not be with anybody right now.
I always hated that scene when I was younger because I felt like it was unfair for her to just ask Peter to leave, even though he had like come clean about what he had done. But seeing it now, I can understand the hurt from her side better and why, in her eyes, doing a shitty thing and then coming clean about it is still doing a shitty thing.
Yeah, but you sympathize for both characters in that moment, and that's so fucking rare, man. And that she is totally justified in what she's saying, because like what she says, like, I get that you're hurting and I get that you're in a hard place, but that does not give you the right to act like a fucking jackass,
Yeah.
And it's totally true. And this is the thing, is that like he spends the entire time justifying all of his bullshit by being like, well, I'm heartbroken and all this shit, and da-da-da-da-da. In the beginning, it's justified, but by the end, he has no fucking reason to do that to her. And he's not like doing it to her. He's doing it because he's in pain and he's like, oh shit, this is what I've wanted for so long, and like I'm finally gonna get this back, and like it's not. And this is the thing. That's why we have sympathy for him, and that's why we love him, and this is why we also. But like in a lesser movie, she would have forgiven him.
Yeah.
Yes.
In a lesser movie, she would have been like, she would have been hurt, and there would have been like a whole montage of how like they're doing their own thing, and then they come back together, but like. She's like, I need you to leave, man. Because she's like, this is it. This is like, you can fuck around all you want, but like, you're not gonna do it to me. Like, I'm above this. And like I said, I couldn't rewatch the scene until I was an adult, which is insane because like, I'll watch anything in any movie. Like, I'll watch people getting shot in the head and like blowing up and like whatever grotesque, fucking inappropriate shit happens on screen in every movie. Like, I'll sit there, I'll watch it. Like, I enjoy it. But like, I don't know what it is, man. But that scene is so hurtful and so good. Like, I cry every time like that he walks back and like gives her the picture. That's it's super brutal, and also like such a cool like write-in earlier where like yeah, there's a picture of her with her tits out on like in the bathroom or whatever, and like all right, this is pretty irrelevant, but it ends up being the key. And then when he sends her the invite to the Dracula musical, and her boy is talking to her, and he's like, yo, this guy's crazy. Like, what does he compare? I don't know what he compares him to. He's like this guy's like something, and he's like, but he's better. He likes puppets. Yeah, that scene is heavy. That scene is amazing.
Yeah, it's a very real moment, and it kind of is one of many moments that like elevates this movie a bit to feel more real and authentic than like any other rom-com, I guess. But yeah, I was just watching the movie today actually, and when that scene came around, I'm like, oh man, I remember this scene. Like I'd forgotten pieces of the movie, but I remembered that whole arc, and I was like, it's a really good scene, but it's just like it's so hard to watch because it's
so hard to watch, and
like,
not even in like a cringy, gross kind of ew way, but like in like a oh fuck, this is like ripping the Band-Aid off. This is brutal.
It is rare that like I feel like it's one of the few moments where I empathize with like both characters. Like I don't see it just I don't lean towards one side in that situation.
For sure. I have another lobby segment that I'm obsessed with, and it's the scene where Aldous comes in for the first time, and he slaps Kristen Bell on the ass, and they all like realize what's happening, and he's like, I've lost a shoe, and like he holds up one shoe, and he's like, it's like this one. Well, actually, it's like kind of the complete opposite of this one, sort of like, you know, this one's twin, not like an evil version or anything. And he's like, no, I think describing what another shoe is, like, it's so funny.
I think that piece of dialogue is different in the theatrical. I might be wrong though.
Is it?
I was like briefly reading over like some differences in the two versions. I think that scene is different, but I'm not positive on that.
Do you know what he says in the alternative?
I don't remember what he says in the other version, if it's different.
So fucking funny.
Yeah, Russell Brand is also very funny in this movie. There's a reason
he's
there
off
was
the
a
charts, dude. He's off the fucking charts in this movie. And where him and Peter bond over like the shitty Sarah cell phone movie at dinner.
Oh yeah.
Where he's like, why would a phone kill you? And he's like,
that's what I told her.
He's like, hello.
Why would a mobile phone kill anyone? It doesn't make sense. How can a mobile phone have an agenda and kill people?
I told her that when she read the script.
Yeah, you were the voice of reason, mate.
I tried to be, but she didn't listen.
What? Going around killing people on a mobile phone, like doing murders.
Why couldn't you just take the battery out of the phone?
Right, that's it. The battle's over.
Yeah, we've won.
I hated it.
That whole dinner scene actually is, watching it again, I think that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie because it's
really strong. Really, I forget about it often, but it's such a strong scene.
Yeah, it's just like so many little things are happening, and then like I think like Jonah Hill's trying to interject like here and there.
Yes, he's trying to impress all of us, and he like
it's like, you listen to my mixtape yet?
Like, yeah, I actually thought about that, but then I just carried on living my life. Yeah. Which is like the meanest. And then he cusses him out. He's like, I've been so fucking nice to you this whole time. I can't yell at you right now because I got fired. But fuck you, you're a piece of shit. And there's another scene where, like, we're talking about little moments where he's on the phone, like he looks like he's making a reservation, and Peter's like walking up to, like, for the first time walking up to the restaurant. Mm-hmm. He's like, well, I would love to sell you some weed, Jeremy, but I'm at my fucking work right now, which you would know because you're calling me at fucking work. So I can't sell you some weed right now. I can sell you some weed later if you'd like. And then he like hangs up, like, hi, welcome, mahalo. Like,
oh man, it's just, yeah, there's so many little moments that are just hilarious.
It's true. It's definitely worth a rewatch. I think that this is a movie that I don't intend. It's also like a movie whenever I meet new people or make new friends, and you know they're like, "Oh, show me a good movie." This is easily one of the first movies I show. Yeah. People. I think it's very hard, very often, to show people cool movies that are also insightful, in depth, engaging, funny. Yeah. Where like if they're not necessarily into film or whatever, that you can show them. And I think like Forgetting Sarah Marshall is for me always like I love this, and that's why I'm showing you this. And if you love this, you'll understand a little bit more about me. The thing is, Yash, we were talking all week about In Bruges as well.
Yeah.
And like I said at the start of the podcast, like when I remember when I met you and you were starting to get into film.
Yeah.
And then it was after we graduated high school that you like were started watching everything, all the whole quintessential library and stuff. Mm-hmm. And for me, my brother showed, and this is so cliche and it's honestly kind of embarrassing. My brother showed me Pulp Fiction when I was like 13, and it rewired my brain, and I was like, oh shit, they can do that in a movie. I was like, oh fuck, this is blowing my mind. And after that, I had, like I said, like I had like an iPod video, and my brother used to download all these movies, and then he would like always like hook up is like sync my iPod with his iTunes library. And so I had like this library of like 30 movies that I would watch secretly in bed at night, like when my parents were asleep.
Yeah.
And In Bruges and Forgetting Sarah Marshall, which came out, I'm pretty sure the same year.
2008.
Were the two movies that like I watched, and Darjeeling Limited. Have you guys seen Darjeeling Limited?
I haven't seen that one.
Oh shit, yo. The Darjeeling Limited is fucking tight. That movie, In Bruges and Forgetting Sarah Marshall, I watched on a loop. They're all movies that like I was way too young to get or understand, but like there was something I loved about them. It's like It's like olives. Like I don't know why I like olives, but I can't stop eating them. You know, they're like fucking, they're terrible, but they're delicious. You know, and I don't know. Like this movie was a very defining part of my adolescence for sure, and it's something I very much, you know, what am I gonna say? I feel like I've run the ground 10 times already about what I feel about the movie.
Everyone who loves cinema has those movies that changed the game for them, you know, like that really made them realize.
What I was going to ask you both actually is I feel like there's like a very like quintessential cinema catalog of like the movies that like, you know, you have to have seen or you have to love, like, you know, whether it's like Pulp Fiction or The Godfather or Fight Club or whatever the fucking, you know, cliche bullshit, you know, great movies. I'm not dissing them. But like I have in my list, I always have movies that like aren't necessarily revered or universally praised as like the best of the best, but movies that to me like stand out as like pieces of cinema that I find incredibly important. And Forgetting Sarah Marshall is like one of the. What are your guys' movies that like aren't necessarily like in the books, but like that movies that you're like, this is it, like this is the shit for me, like this touches me somewhere, like I can't like quite place, but like I could, you know, this movie's very important to me. You guys have like a movie like that?
Zach, you can start. I'm gonna think about this one.
For me, it's Pleasantville.
Pleasantville is fucking amazing, bro.
Yes.
I love Pleasantville. Pleasantville is fucking tight.
Yes.
That movie's
I love
awesome.
Pleasantville.
Yeah, I love all these movies that like magical realism.
Absolutely.
Pleasantville. Okay, that's a really good pick. Yash, I like how I'm doing the interview now. I'm like the guest fucking interviewing you guys. I don't give a shit.
You have questions for us?
I am the host now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few. I mean, it's not like a one-off answer for me, but
Pleasantville is such a good pick, dude. That's such a fucking good movie.
I love that.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, it's so good. My favorite movie.
It's really, it's not gonna like you're gonna watch it and be like, oh shit, this is cinema, but you're gonna watch it and you're gonna love it and you're gonna watch it again. You're like, oh, this movie's good.
A very pivotal movie for me, simply because I think it was just around the time I was getting more into movies. But I remember I watched Inception for the first time, and I was just like, this is insane. Like, this movie is something else. And since then, I've watched it like over like 15 times probably.
That movie's a really big. I think that's a gateway movie for sure. Like, if you're not into film and you see that movie, that's like a really good way to get into film.
Another movie that I've already mentioned on this episode today is 500 Days of Summer.
Yes,
it was such a, you know, when I watched it, I hadn't experienced like any rejection at that point in my time because I was pretty young. But like through the years, it's been a movie that's like very like therapeutic to watch it because you see yourself in the main character a lot. And I mean, I fully intend on doing an episode on 500 Days of Summer at some point. But I love how the movie's not told in order. And I think it's there's many movies that have done that, obviously, like Pulp Fiction, but it's a movie that like it shows you the end essentially. And then you're left to figure out how you got there. So I really liked that. Like there was a rewatch, like all the movies that I really love that really like changed cinema for me are the ones that I could revisit and like get more meaning out of it. So those are probably
of course. And the thing is, like about 500 Days of Summer is that movie is like very falsely interpreted a lot. Like people are supposed to feel bad for the main character, but like the main character is a fucking douchebag. Like he's not a good guy.
Yeah, like
Joseph Gordon-Levitt talks about this as well. Like he's not somebody you should look up to or try to be like. Like he's possessed like a heroin addict to the idea of like being in love and being with somebody, but like he's trying to force this relationship. Like she tells him from the start of the movie, like she's like, no, this like I'm not going in for this. Like this isn't my thing. And he still tells himself like, no, this is what she wants and all this shit. Like he's interpreting for her. Yeah,
like a lot of people watch that movie and they're like, oh well, like Summer sucks, but it's like, but like also like both characters have flaws and they want completely different things, and that's why like it doesn't work out. Which isn't a spoiler because they tell you in the first few minutes, like it's not going to work. But yeah, those are probably the two films for me, Inception and 500 Days of Summer, that just like definitely changed the way I look at cinema.
Can I give some recommendations?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Not for the podcast. You guys did an excellent podcast. Thank you for having me, by the way.
You're welcome.
A breakup movie that is very dear to me and that I think everybody should watch is called Celeste and Jesse Forever. Have you guys seen that movie before?
I've heard good things. But
I don't think I've even heard of it.
You should watch Celeste and Jesse Forever. It's Andy Samberg and Rashida Jones, which is a fucking obviously a great pairing.
Yeah.
And they're best friends their whole life, and they got married, and the movie starts with them having just gotten divorced, and how they're both dealing with it. And it's really good. It's incredibly good. I'm gonna actually watch it again this week, I think, because I haven't watched it in years. But like as far as breakup movies go, because we're on the theme, I definitely think Celeste and Jesse Forever is a movie that everybody should see. Okay. And also, it's talking about movies that like we love, but like nobody's fucking seen. And this is for you, Josh. This is some homework for you. I need you to watch Michael Clayton.
Oh, okay. I told you how I watched it the first time and like
Oh yeah, you did watch it. Shit, yeah, I forgot about that.
I didn't watch the whole movie. I was watching it too casually. I'm like, I gotta watch this later. Like,
yeah, you can't. You gotta watch it in depth, and then you gotta watch it again, and then you'll fucking realize it's the best movie ever made.
I think it's on HBO Max, which I have now, so I'll check it out. All right. So before we wrap up today, I wanted to, ask you guys, if you had to convince someone to watch this movie, what would be your sales pitch? What would be, I know you've already mentioned this is a good movie to bring to new friends, things like that, but what would you tell them to get them to watch it?
I think that this is a movie that everybody can understand. I think that when you hit a certain age, there's no avoiding this movie. In the sense that like avoiding this feeling in your life, like you're going to face rejection at some point. You're going to feel heartbreak. You're going to have the rug pulled out from under you. And I think that this is a movie where like, I think when everybody experiences that, their first thought is like, why is this happening to me? I'm the first person to ever feel like this. And this movie shows you like, no, this is the most universal fucking feeling in the world. And I think that that's, this is a movie that like makes you feel human. It makes you realize like, oh, I'm not alone. And I think it's honestly like movies like medicine, man. This movie is excellent.
Yeah.
It's I don't know, and it's hilarious. You're gonna laugh your ass off the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
I have nothing bad to say about this movie at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'd kind of say something similar to both of you, but I would probably add how, even if you can't personally relate to this movie, you will see characters that are very funny, but they will remind you of situations you've seen, for other people, whether it's your friends, whether it's someone you know. So it's a relatable movie in any sense, whether you've been through it or whether you have seen it through someone else's lens.
Oh my God, you're such a prick. And you know what? Let me tell you something about these tattoos, okay? That is Buddhist, that is Nordic, that is Hindu, that's just gibberish. They are completely conflicting ideologies, and that does not make you a citizen of the world. It makes you full of shit.
All right, so with that wraps up our discussion on Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Thanks to Paul for joining us today, and from all of us at Cinema Convos, we hope you tune in next time.